they're all from Duluth. They're Northlanders. One thing they have in common is their love of the outdoors, and you'll hear that in their bios, the theme, and they're all community activists. They all really believe in what they're doing and helping our environment and recreation. And so it's just inspiring, especially now it's spring, tomorrow's the first day of spring. So that really inspired me. So Allison moved back to Duluth, which is her hometown, as I said, after retiring. And she became interested and engaged in extending the Cross City Trail on its next segment of the Lake Walk. And that was 19th Avenue East toward the intended Gitchigami State Trail beyond Brighton Beach. And when that was mostly completed, she got engaged in the Canal Park toward the Munger Trailhead at 75th Avenue West below Grand Avenue. And as we said, as she said, she met Patty on the trail and some others, but she wanted to make sure that Dick and Mike were were the presenters, and she's just really glad they're here to talk to us today about this. So Mike is again a native, graduated from Denfeld, went to Duluth area Votech and in technical drafting and design. He found employment at Superwood, then Georgia Pacific, Superior Fiber, and he worked mostly as an engineer's sidekick. Then he moved on to Minnesota Power, and that's where he retired from. He's married, lives in Morgan Park. He's a founding member of the River Corridor Coalition, which is now called Friends of the Western Duluth Parks and Trails. And he's been advocating on many of the city's 26 plus corridor projects with a heavy focus on the Western Waterfront Trail extension to be a rail and trail system with the Lake Superior and Mississippi Railroad, which is also another fun train ride. And he's involved with the We Walk in Duluth, a founding member of Duluth Bikes, and currently serves the 5th District on the Duluth Transit Authority Board. See how engaged these people are? They put me to shame here. Wonderful.
Rolene,
Okay.
Rolene,
Yes.
it's Allison. Mike and Lauren really live in Smithville, and it's worth finding out where Smithville is.
Yes. Yes. I've driven through there. It's
between Morgan Park and Riverside. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes, I actually live in what I call the lower Smithville. The most part is above Grand Avenue, and they abut Munger. The lower part abuts the river, so I have a partial view of the river down here.
Okay, and there's a marina down there, right?
That's in Riverside, actually, just half a mile east of us.
Okay, because my nephew leaves his boat there, so I'd gone over to see that area. Very nice, very nice.
There is actually a public launch down here called Clyde Avenue Launch. So it's one of the 2 launches out west. Boy Scout out in Gary, and then Clyde Avenue Launch. Munger Launch is what it's also called.
Great. Okay. So Dick and Allison apparently graduated the same class, Duluth East High School. Is that correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay. And Allison graduated with a bachelor's degree from UMD and a graduate degree from the University of Minnesota. She was hired by UMD to teach health. No, I'm talking about Dick. I'm sorry.
No, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I
Back
keep
to
saying
Dick.
her and I should say
On to
him.
Dick.
Yes, get my message right here. So Dick graduated then from UMD and then the U of M. He was hired to teach health wellness classes, and he created and directed the recreational sports outdoor program. And he retired from that, and then he was hired as an adjunct faculty at Lake Superior College to teach outdoor recreation and environmental education. He's been married, has 4 children in Hunters Park area, and that graduated from Duluth East, and he's got 8 of his 9 grandchildren are graduates from the same high school. He's active in civic issues, served on Duluth Parks and Rec, was one of the founders of Duluth Bayfront Visions, around a desire to create a Duluth Botanical Conservatory and Arboretum in Canal Park area. He was a member of Fit City Duluth, Healthy Duluth Area Coalition, one of the leaders of the cooperative effort of citizens and city staff to create the Lowell to Lake Walk Trail, now named the Campus Connector Trail. Vertical connector of the Lake Walk with campuses, schools, community, businesses, and trails atop the hill in the east end of town. And presently, he's involved in the St. Louis River Corridor initiatives, the development of a system of connectivity of Duluth trails and bikeways to encourage healthy, active lifestyles. So thank you all for being here to tell us about this wonderful activity with and an ongoing effort. So
Can I
take
just
it
ask
away.
a question? Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Dick, what is your last name? Mike's name comes up on the Zoom call, but your last name, what is it?
Haney, Haney.
Oh, Haney. Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, who wants to start? Take it
I
away.
think, well, for us, we've put a slideshow together. Us old folks
Okay.
have figured out how to do PowerPoint. So I'm just firing this up now, and I'm going to do something. Yeah, I just want to start. This is a nice slide. This is our current initiative as an advocacy group, and on the Cross City Trail. So we'll touch on that a little bit later on, but I thought it's a great graphic because it actually shows what the Lake Walk and Cross City Trail is really meant to be, accessible and available to all ages and abilities. So I just like this little graphic. I got to figure this out now. I got 2 monitors going, so I'm really confused. Let's see, something's not working for me. I'm going to try something here. There we go. Now, try this again. It's not moving for me, so hang on. I guess I don't know how to do a slideshow on Zoom. Dang it.
Lucy's pretty good at that. Maybe
It's
she.
not moving for me with the arrows. So let me try one more time. I didn't test this out. So we're going to try.
I think if you click on the second slide, I think you might get it.
Yeah,
There
I
you
will. Then you don't see it as big, right? You're not
Yeah.
seeing it as big.
Yes.
Yes.
So the,
Yeah.
so the
Oh,
issue
play.
is,
Play would, I bet if you hit that arrow play over there, with that, you kind of, yeah, right there. What happens if you do that? There.
I think it's gonna just play.
Got- Yes, good.
It's gonna.
Oh, it won't
I
stop.
don't have
huh?
control over it. Just give me a second here. All right, we're just gonna have to struggle through it then. Can you see this pretty clearly on the main page here?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is our brief little agenda that we're going to go through. Basically, who we are, who the Friends of the Western Duluth Parks and Trails is, who we are, and we actually have a little coalition built now around the Cross City Trail, which is more than us. It's We Walk Duluth, sometimes Zeitgeist, Duluth Bikes, and other citizens. So we're going to go on into the past of the Cross City Trail, and Dick's going to cover that. It's a rich and healthy past, actually. Then I'll pick up about the present and a little bit on the future. So first, the Friends, we organized back during when the half and half tax got extended, basically, for the St. Louis River Corridor project that Mayor Ness brought up for the western side of town, which is pretty phenomenal. So our mission statement is we organize to enable citizens and other interested groups to better partner with the city to plan, design, construct, and maintain the best possible parks and trails in Western Duluth. That was called the River Corridor Coalition back in the day. We stuck together for 2 years. There was more than just trails and parks. I chaired a group underneath it called the Committee of Parks and Trails. And when the River Corridor Coalition dissolved, the Parks and Trails folks wanted to continue on, and we renamed ourselves the Friends here. And just to back up, we've touched on there's like 26 plus corridor projects that Mariness brought forward, all basically supporting tourism, outdoor recreation, to help the western side bring a more influx of housing in, to bring people out here, because he recognized the westerly side of the Point of Rocks has had a tainted kind of reputation for many years. You know, this east-west divide thing, and trying to build the city back together. So it's been quite successful, actually. So I'll hand it over to Dick. He's going to do the history here.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. And thank you for inviting us into your living room as such. I call myself a techno dinosaur, so I resist technology a little bit, and Mike has helped me through it with the PowerPoint presentation. So while it might not be a professional presentation, it certainly will be passionate, because the people that I've been involved with out here are very passionate and have sucked me into it as well. I grew up in the eastern part of town, and I was very excited when the mayor took an interest in the St. Louis River Corridor in the western part of town, because of the history out here of Duluth is some of the oldest, and it's some of the most beautiful area and rugged, and features the estuary as well as Lake Superior and the heritage of Duluth that is largely been determined by or influenced by the waters and where we live. I made a note that it's Women's History Month today, so we're dealing with history here, but congratulations on that. The Cross City Trail has been around for a long time. The vision has gone back to about the 70s, but I put the vision on the screen in a little expanded version, a little bit more wordy than we have typically put out there. But so it is for a most direct route across the city, connecting the Munger State Trail in the western Duluth to the Gitchigami Trail, and then it further describes what that is. I won't do that now. If we'll go to our first slide. Willard Munger, I'm sure a number of you remember him. He was a state legislator for many years. He was an environmentalist, and he did a lot of things for the area. And one of them was the completion of the Munger State Trail. And the Munger State Trail runs from, it's on the screen right now, it runs from Hinckley to the Munger Trailhead in West Duluth near Indian Point Campground. When that occurred, Jim Overstar, whom I'll mention in a minute, kind of expanded on that. But with the Munger State Trail, there's also some connections from Hinckley to the Twin Cities. So theoretically, not theoretically, actually, you can get on a bicycle and ride from the Twin Cities. And when you get to Hinckley, you get officially onto the Willard Munger Trail, the abandoned BNSF railroad. And because it's a rail, it has the physical characteristics that make it conducive and inviting to people of all abilities, because it has controlled grades. I think 3% is a maximum railroad grade. And then it became a surfaced surface trail that all the way to Duluth. So the connectivity thing is I'll be coming back to now and again. So it's an accessible trail. Next slide, Mike. In looking back on when did the actual cross city, the part that's in Duluth, the cross, I'm going to use two terms here. There's the cross city connection. It includes the cross city trail, the western part, with the lake walk. So the cross city connector vision connected the west end of town to the far east end of town. So it was to be, as the statement goes for the vision, it was to be a connector, so people could go from one trail, the Munger State Trail, all the way to the Gitchigami Trail, and then some of it's done now, but the Gitchigami Trail goes up the shore, and someday we'll go all the way up to Canada. I don't think I'll be around for that, but the Duluth Bikeway plan was done by ARDC, the Metropolitan Interstate Council, part of it that deals with transportation. And it was the first that we have found, the first study that was done on this concept of this ribbon across Duluth, that we now call the Cross City Trail and the Lake Walk. One of the priorities, and it's the number one priority that they list in this plan, was connecting Duluth from the west end to the very east end. So back in 1975, that concept was first put into a plan that eventually became what is the Lake Walk and is becoming the Cross City Trail together. We'll go one more slide here, Mike. No, we're going to skip here, and we're going to come back to that slide. The next one.
Which one do you want to free?
It would be, yeah, that one there. Or is that the one I want? Yeah, we did the Duluth Bikeway plan. What had around the time of the freeway coming into Duluth was about the time that the same period of time that people were looking at the connector for non-motorized transportation. But the focus, of course, was on the Lake Walk, which had a significant impact in many ways, both positive and negative. What I found interesting, and some of you may remember this, that what's on the screen right now was the original design for the trail, which for the freeway, which came through town on pillars all through the western part of Duluth. And it also sacrificed about 700 pieces of property, homes, and so forth to get through to where it stalled at Mesaba Avenue. That was about 1971. The original plan in the dialogue, the printing on the right part of it, was the plan called for a pillar design, but it actually went into the lake. It actually, in this slide, it's hard to see, but the ribbon that you see is actually in the water. So the design was to be on pillars in Lake Superior from Canal Park area to about 10th Avenue East. It sounds pretty horrible today, but that was the plan that the feds had written for the trail. How do I advance this here? Okay. In the lower right, you see that what is part of the freeway that in the western part of town on pillars. And so much of it was designed that way. And when they got to Lake Avenue, or excuse me, to the Mesaba Avenue, the plan was then to continue an elevated freeway that would go through Canal Park and then into the water up the shore a ways. That was met with a lot of resistance. The leaders, or a couple of the leaders of this plan, was Kent Worley, who was a landscape architect for Architectural Resources, and Bill Majewski, who now is now a retired a planner from after he worked for Architectural Resources. He went to the city and worked as a planner for many years, and now he's retired and lives out here in the western part of town.
I'll say he lives in Upper Smithville, actually.
Upper Smithville, okay. So Kent is a very outspoken and fervent individual, and he led the effort to change the plan for I-35. And there were several plans. One of them that went up on the hill and across up on top of the hill, and the one that they settled on, and Kent and Bill were involved in this, was the tunnel system, where they blasted the rock along the shoreline, and those are the tunnels that lead through Duluth today. And so those two people were very critical, along with many others, to creating what became an award-winning freeway design. It recognized nationally, but it also connected, allowed for people to keep in contact with the lake. So the freeway was blasted through granite rock, and I don't know how many tons or metric tons, but the debris from that was put along the shore and created a little over 6 acres of shoreline that gave the birth or the conditions for the lake walk. So part of the lake walk goes along that debris, the rock debris that came out of the tunnel. The photo that I have here, the black and white one, I found is they're celebrating the opening of that part of the freeway. They're actually in the tunnel on the eastern part of town. So that was the lake walk, of course, was the first part of the cross city connector that was built, and today is pretty much done. The freeway took from planning to completion about 30 years. The cross city trail, that I'm speaking now of the section from Canal Park out to the Munger Trailhead. It's been over 40 years since that's been on the books. And in the meantime, the lake walk has been connected or pretty much completed out to Brighton Beach. Some work going on to finish that section out there. And some advances have been made recently on the cross city trail. Okay, let's try. Okay, all right. This John Blotnick was the House of Representatives representing this area in the federal Congress, and he retired in 1974. I put the slide in here because his aide was Jim Oberstar. And Jim Oberstar then represented and worked for in the House on the transportation infrastructure. But John Blotnick was responsible for a lot of projects. He did a very good job, and the Blotnick Bridge that we show here is significant to the Cross City Trail. Right now, the MnDOT and the Wisconsin Department of Transportation are working on redesign and maybe even replacement of the Blotnick Bridge and maybe the Bong Bridge. And in that replacement, we've been pushing for bicycle and and pedestrian accommodations so that we can connect to this Wisconsin. That the bridge then will be, and that conduit will connect to the Cross City Trail. So it will be part of a regional connection to Wisconsin, but there are also the other trails will reach out to northeastern Minnesota. So I put it in there because it is significant to the Cross City Trail. Okay, let's go with
That's the deep history.
the deep. Yeah. Oops, I went too far. Let's go back.
To Overstar?
Yeah, to the one that I skipped over first of all here. To James Overstar. Okay, it certainly needs no introduction. He was our House of Representative from 1975 to 2011, at which time he was defeated and not really ready to retire, but he was because of our democratic system. But Jim Overstar was took the vision of that the Munger Trail established or gave birth to, connecting to with state trails for non-motorized means throughout the northeastern Minnesota. And the section of trail from Hinckley down to the Twin Cities, parts of it are called the Jim Overstar State Trail. But James Overstar had the vision, the broad vision of completing the Cross City Trail and the Lake Walk, and the vision of continuing on up the shore with the Gitchigami all the way up to Canada. And so he had that vision. He shared with some Duluthians, particularly on the Cross City Trail and the Lake Walk. But that vision that he has will allow, if it's completed or when it's completed, someone to get on a bicycle or rollerblades or wheelchairs or whatever on an accessible trail to go from the Twin Cities all the way up to Canada. I get tired just thinking about it, but the section that we're focusing on today is the history of the Cross City Trail, which runs from Munger Trailhead out, as I mentioned, out western part of town, to the Canal Park and connects to the Lake Walk. So Overstar was significant in advancing that vision and working on it. And Mike will speak a little bit later, because in 2005, as the chair of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, secured funding. I think it was one of the first, maybe the first funding of transportation dollars for bicycle types of issues. And that funding was for the Cross City Trail to complete that. All right, now let me see what's next.
Oh, this is the next.
Okay. But I want to jump back even further, and this is before our time, to William Rogers. William Rogers was the president of a bank in Duluth. He came from Columbus, Ohio, and in around 1988, he became the first president of the first Parks and Recreation committee or commission in the city of Duluth. He was a visionary, and one of his visions was for a trail from one end of the city to the other along the ridge, the upper till layer of gravel and so forth that creates where the lake once abided, has since receded. But he had that vision, and he actually began construction of it in Chester Bowl area, Chester Park, and in his time, he saw it finished to Miller Creek, about five miles. At that time, it had several different names. It was called the Terrace Parkway at one time, but today we call it the Skyline Parkway. And in this photograph, you can see the horse-drawn carriage there overlooking Lake Superior in the section that is shown in red on the drawing for the Skyline Parkway. So he was he had a lot of other contributions to. He was involved in the what was it called, the that goes up the hill, the
Masabi Avenue.
not Amasabi Avenue, but the it's no longer there, but it was
Oh, the incline.
the incline.
Yeah.
The incline rail up in Duluth. He was involved in that, and also in the development of several parks. So he was a very significant visionary. But he died, and Samuel Snively, who was the mayor around the 1900s, liked the vision and continued pursuing it, and was largely responsible for the rest of the Skyline Parkway that went from Seven Bridges Road on the east end of town all the way to Beck's Road. And at one time it went even further into Fond du Lac, but today you can go from Seven Bridges Road to the Beck's Road along the Skyline Parkway. That was the contribution of those two people. They were fairly affluent. Samuel Snively had actually owned the property along the Eastern Skyline Parkway, which goes from Glenwood Avenue and to the Seven Bridges Road. He contributed that property to the city for that part of the trail. So they were very influential people, and so what's significant is Rogers also had a plan for a cross-city route across Lower Duluth, which is where the Lake Walk is today, and for some vertical connectors. In his time, he was looking at the many streams and the avenues they provided for vertical connection from Lower Duluth to Upper Duluth. In fact, that vision and even the inclined rail was to encourage growth for Duluth up on top of the hill for it to grow. And they believed that the city would grow to be a very significant metropolis. That didn't happen, but they contributed a lot to it. Okay, that's enough on William Rogers here. Let me do the freeway here.
Yeah, Fifth City. Mills.
Okay. Moving up a little further, the Fifth City Duluth was founded by Mimi Stander, who provided significant funds to run that. The mission of the Fifth City Duluth is stated here, but it was for active transportation, for healthy active living, in so many words. And they did some studies. One of them was the connecting Duluth. It was about bicycles, and it was done by an AmeriCorps individual. I was involved with Fifth City at the time. Mimi Stender was coming to the end of her involvement with Fifth City Duluth, and eventually that 501c3 was terminated, and Mimi went on to do some other things in Duluth, but she's a very concerned Duluthian and very active. Some of you may know Mimi. When Fifth City Duluth was about to terminate, I was involved. We created the Healthy Duluth Area Coalition. And the first person hired, the executive director of it, was Lisa Lukala, who went on to served in that position as the director for a number of years. And then she went on to work for the city, Parks and Recreation. And now she's the executive director of the Spear Hiking Trail. Healthy Duluth Area Coalition struggled a bit because we had difficulty with funding. It was housed in the YMCA for a period of time, and then it was moved to Zeitgeist. And it then became part of Zeitgeist. And Lisa was continued in that position, and then Shauna Mullen took that over, and who I don't know who's in there, Andrea Krause.
Andrea Krause.
Andrea
Yeah.
Krause is in there. So it still exists today, but it's under the broad umbrella of Healthy Duluth Area Coalition. But the theme of Fit City Duluth was connectivity. And I'll be using that term a lot because we wanted to contribute to a system of non-motorized transportation throughout the city, where we would have major routes, and much like a grid for streets, but it would be for transportation for non-motorized by non-motorized means. So they pushed us along on that, and one of the things I worked with Tom Livingston was involved in it, and we worked with the city of Duluth, Judy Gibbs, in someone from Parks and Recreation, someone from planning, someone from the engineering department. We worked together to form what we called then the Lowell to Lake Walk, which was the vertical connector on the east end of town, coming up, tying into the Lake Walk about 32nd Avenue East, and then going up through the Tisher or the Congdon Creek corridor, up the hill and through Mount Royal, through UMD and over to Scholastica, and then behind Scholastica all the way over to the Rice Lake Road. That vertical connector enabled large populations, a lot of young people, because it touched the college campuses and also touched about 5 or 6 elementary schools that would provide for opportunities to ride their bikes to school or for transportation or for recreation. Today, that is the first vertical connection that is somewhat completed. The part up from Superior Street up to Vermilion was paved to the standards, except for the gradient, but it was had the paved surface. We got the money there from FEMA because that was right after the flood, and that got wiped out. So that's where the money came for that section. Another section that's completed is more like a super sidewalk, but from the UMD campus over to Kenwood Avenue is a blacktop separated from the road for as part of the campus connector. Some of the other parts are still in the planning, but that was the first of the vertical connectors, and several others that are thought to be potentials. A gradient is always an issue, but 40th Avenue West and Highland Street out in the far western part of town, and maybe some other areas will eventually be completed to most of the same standards. The one that we have difficulty with, of course, is the gradients in Duluth. But that would form the tying to the campus or to the cross-city connector and even to Skyline Parkway, which are the horizontal connectors. We would have a system of major routes or corridors to handle non-motorized transportation, connected to spurs and to get to residences, residential areas, to get to businesses and so forth. We would have a system for non-motorized transportation, and we have a long ways to go, but particularly on street developments for bicycles. And Duluth has not been has been real slow on accepting some of these things. So, and part of our presentation here today is geared towards encouraging you and the public to encourage the city, to encourage the councilors, to encourage the mayor to complete the one section of the Cross City Trail that is not yet complete. And Mike's going to talk a little bit more about that. But the roughly the distance from the Munger Trailhead to Brighton Beach, about 90% of that has been completed to the standards for the federal standards for transportation for non-motorized vehicles. The one section that's not complete yet, from about Irving Park to the trailhead, called segment 6, is been having some difficulty in getting the city to focus on that, to complete that. So this 10% that is uncompleted is interrupts this ribbon from the Twin Cities up to and across Duluth, and is holding it up. So we encourage you to if you're interested in that kind of transportation, that I encourage you to get involved and to do what you can to help us focus on that. Was I going to comment on this one?
What he just mentioned was a 10%. So this is the Lake Walk section of the Cross City Connector, the original vision, and the yellow oval and the line within that is actually the Cross City Trail. And this red section here is really the last remaining piece for the original vision of the Cross City Connector. So that's what this image is about. Yeah. This one that you saw earlier was but a significant amount of planning and all the active living and bike and pedestrian work that's been going on since 1975. These are actually plans and studies on shelves somewhere.
I'm going to turn it over to Mike now. What he has on the screen is a listing of all of the plans and the studies that have been done that pertain in some way to the Cross City Trail. And so it's been going on for quite some time. And we're ready to connect the east to the west. And I'm going to let Mike take it from the present.
First, I got to ask, thanks a ton for inviting us. It's always good to share the news of progress and see if people are interested in helping complete the progress. But I don't know how much time you have, because as you can tell, we could go on a long time here. And I definitely want to leave some time for some Q&A at the end, if that's possible. So.
Sure. This is Rolene. We generally go an hour. Once in a while, it does go a little bit over. So let's see, what time is it? It's
10 minutes.
10. Yeah. So you can plan accordingly. We can go a little bit over too. If people have to leave, they'll just simply, just leave. They'll leave the screen. So
in the interim, if you don't mind, if you plan on leaving and you have a question, either drop it in the chat, which I can't see right now, or just interrupt me. I'd much rather answer questions, but I'll try to speed through my piece of this a little bit, a little faster than I'd like to, but it'll be fine. So I'm moving into the present and then into the future. So the present is, like Dick talked about, the Cross City Connector, the Lake Walk being built first, the freeway having an impact on that, and why the Lake Walk part of the connector got built first. And that's because of the freeway, basically. And he talked about the Obersar Trail, but there's also this Route 41. It's a U.S. bicycle route. There's many bicycle routes through the city that people use in the country, that people use to plan their trips. And the Route 41 will adopt the Cross City Trail as it comes through the city. So you can see here, this red line is actually the bike Route 41 that's existing right now. It's green because it's off-road, and it goes red when it's on-road. So right now, when you come into the Munger Trailhead, you got to go out on the Grand Avenue, which isn't a Grand Avenue, it's a highway. It's pretty fast, 45 mile an hour realistic speed limits. and you go along to Raleigh Street and you take a right, then you connect to where the Cross City Trail terminates right now in Irving Park, which was a significant move last year. Segment 2 was built that got it right into Irving Park. So there's this small piece left. So we really hope the city will take the funding that they have now and work on this red line and turn it to green. They unfortunately want to go up above Grand Avenue and around because it's the easiest thing to do. But we've kind of identified that it's also easy on the lower road if they switch gears and build from the Munger Trail to Raleigh Street. There's a thing called a railroad that's hard to work with, that's preventing. They're focused on the railroad piece, and we're kind of focused on the trail piece. Build another section of the trail. Don't wait around for BNSF. You could wait a long time for that. But anyways, like Dick said, the planning for the Cross City Trail, part of the Cross City Connector, really started in 2005 when Mr. Oberstar got us $2.5 million in a rare move in a federal transportation bill to have a line item for a trail, and it's called Munger Trail Extension. Now, I'm gonna try this one more time because I just think bigger is better on this situation, and I'm not being successful still. But just to because I think you see this better. That's a line item in a transportation bill: Safe, Accountable, Flexible, Efficient Transportation Equity Act and Legacy for Users. I thought that was an interesting subtitle for that. Over here, they talk about the Munger Trail with the city's Lake Walk connecting to that. And it was going to be about $3.2 million back then. Well, that was back in 2005. There was many planning processes that came after that. And this is a list of them. So I should stay on track here. So the real planning started in about 2009, and I'll be walking you through these here. But in 2005, when the funding came out, the city basically had these visions, these different thoughts of how you get through the city. So whenever you see this style map, this is my compilation of public maps that I've gathered over the years and try to put them into one map instead of many. So you can kind of see, this is the Lake Walk is up here, how they're trying to get through Lincoln Park, and they kind of had a way to get here, and a couple different ideas down around the paper mill and stepping through Irving Park, and that's the Munger Trailhead there. And again, I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little bit fast here, but so that's the early thoughts. And then when the funding came around, then they started to get a little bit serious about it, right? You got money, you got a timeline, let's do something. So they really started thinking about, okay, it's a Munger Trail extension, we'll work on the west segment, that's got this piece, then there was a central segment, then there's an easterly segment. And it was really the Sister Cities Park, was being built on top of those surge tanks, down in the corner there. That if you've never been to Sister City Park, you should get to it. I think it's a little known park tucked away off the upper part of the park up there. And there's a ramp that goes down there, but that's what they're connecting to there, and the Munger Trailhead there. That's been always the two connection points. That's the two dots to connect to. But they got funding in 2005, so now they start working on it. Behind the scenes, the engineering department was working on, this was an engineering project. This was not a public engagement project. This was money funded to do something. Engineering department was in charge of it, and engineers take hold of it and they start running. So the city hired SEH and Matt Bolf from SEH to work on this. I think around 2009 he came on, and they started laying out some more routes. And in 2010 they came out, they started working with stakeholders. Like they probably brought together some organizations like Fit City Duluth, the Y, Lisa Locala's initiatives, and starting to work on it behind the scenes. And then in 2010, they started coming out with these two public meetings to the citizens of Duluth and discussing the alignments, how we've built it, here's the funding, we're looking at all these different things. So it was more like public informational meetings. And they always talked about building the west segment, then the center segment, then the east segment. This is another piece about how they're getting through Irving. And I show this because it's significant, because Irving community has inappropriately been tagged as the ones who stopped the Cross-City Trail. Well, actually, they stopped the Cross-City Trail for some very good reasons. One was the city didn't really come to them and ask how you want to go through the trail. They came to them and said, this is how it's going to go through your trail. But through the whole planning process, this is the maps that they were showing them. And they were on board with it. Matter of fact, they were proposing some of these routes through Irving. But it's just some of the early thoughts. Then in 2012, something significant happened. I mean, they had some more detailed plans, but the flood happened. And the flood just stopped everything from happening on anything new. And the city really had to focus on the flood. So, after the flood, I wanted to go through this slide a little bit because the first segment that ended up getting built was the easterly segment for a few reasons. One was they're kind of running out of time. And this is about the 2013, well, this is 2013 or planning prior to that. And they thought, well, we've got the right of way, it's mostly road right of way. And we can just build that without getting a lot of permitting, a lot of easements and a lot of things like that. So this is some of the planning process that went into it. I'll speed through this a little bit. If you can see this, you can see, I'll make it bigger. You can see how they're trying to go down the red line, and the blue line's above the freeway. And the blue line is actually what they adopted for the first segment, the easterly segment. You can see here how and these maps get kind of confusing because north turns a little bit at each map, but the blue line comes through underneath the can of worms. And they try to follow the rail corridor and MnDOT, and MnDOT's kind of pushing back. The BNSF doesn't like these types of things. So ultimately what they did is they built up underneath the can of worms, if you can see my arrow, and along Superior Street was what we call a super sidewalk. But this just shows you all the planning that went into it and what was being presented at these public meetings. And then this one here actually shows you where it comes to, now this is really kind of hard to get your head around, but this is the Heritage Center, this area right here. And the trail right now comes all the way over to here and terminated right at Carlton Avenue. But you can kind of see this red line down here. And that's what they were thinking about getting into Irving Park. So I'll jump forward to 2013. And that's when they presented to the city. And this is where I first met Alison Clarke. And I'll tell you this story real quick. It was a meeting up in the big meeting room behind the city hall up on 3rd floor. And they were presenting about what they're going to do in 2013 about segment 1. It turned out to be called segment 1, but the easterly segment, why they're doing it and all that. And Alison probably doesn't like me saying this stuff, but anyways, there was a lady in the room towards the end of the meeting that stood up and said, and I always call it this lady dressed to the nines, just really, my dad always said that, dressed to the nines. I don't even know what that means, but she just offered a helping hand, really. She said, we're friends of the Lake Walk, and we've helped build amenities and things along the Lake Walk, and we really want to see the Cross-City Trail built. So if the western side of Duluth would like any help, we're here to give you a hand. And I'm this West Duluth guy, been here all the time, that east-west thing. And wow, that was really cool to have someone from the east side reach out to the west side and offer a helping hand. I'm sure it's happened before, but I've never been present for that. So it made a significant impact on me. And I didn't even know who she was at the time. But anyhow, I want to fly through the rest of this 2012 map, showing you what they were trying to get through here. The main gist here is they came across a road across the freeway. That was actually a road that went away when it was at Minnesota Power. They demolished that road when the mega project came through, and the pedestrian bridge still stays there. But nonetheless, they wanted to find a way onto Oneota Street, the lower part of the freeway. And this piece I'm going to make bigger because this is significant in what happened along the way. This is what's actually currently built, segment 2. It's currently built right now. But this was presented at the time Irving pushed back. When Irving pushed back, there was a $500,000 transportation funding that was coming due. So when they pushed back, Mayor Ness said, okay, we'll do something else. And he surrendered that $500,000. And we lost $500,000. And today, this part of it is built today. So it was in hindsight, 2020, right? Hindsight, that we didn't really need to lose the 500,000. But this is just another map showing you how Irving was being presented, how they're going to go through their community. Now, look, they're not going through residential streets per se. There is this one proposal, but they're using main corridors to get down to these other corridors. And Irving, little did I know until we started meeting with them, they worked their tails off to get sidewalks and streets. It was all dirt roads and no sidewalks back in the day. So this is just another planning map that shows that significant deal. What the city was working with Irving and trying to find a way through Irving at the time. And then this kind of shows you the finishing run. And I remember being in the meetings where they were saying, you know, money's running out. We'll figure out how to get through here later, but we got lots of options how to get through here. No, none of them are above Grand Avenue. So then the 2014 meeting I was at, Alison might have been at it, City Center West, that's when Irving pushed back. They did not like what they saw because it was totally different than what was presented to them before. This went to this. And this is significant in that, one, they went up onto Bristol Street, right on the street, and we're going to cross Central Avenue, or not, I forget exactly, but then they were going to come and cross underneath the freeway on and off ramps in a very congested, busy Central Avenue up here, and then cross on a residential street that they just got sidewalks on, and then go down another residential street below Raleigh Street and down on Redruth down here, which is a beautiful residential street, a wide right of way with the sidewalks set back from the street. And what Irving heard was this: we're going to come to you, we're going to improve your neighborhood, we're going to tear up the sidewalks you just built and put this trail down. So Irving got a little bit upset about that because they heard it differently. You know, they just heard it differently. So what happened about the same time, Mayor Ness was developing this St. Louis River Corridor initiative in up on the 4th floor. He was working on that. And he said, well, okay, there's conflict out in Irving. I don't like conflict. We need to get some funding for these 2 big trestles out on the DWP recreational trail that we want. Let's do that. Let's push it up on the 6th Street. Let's propose going up on 6th Street, going over and all that. And we'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So he did that. He was going to lose another $300,000 that people didn't really realize. And he built this segment from Green Street to the zoo above Grand Avenue at the exact same time this plan was being developed. So the mini master plan was proposed by the city to start. And the reason they did that is because they needed a plan in order to get legacy funding for this new vision. Okay, so they used the Cross City Trail in conjunction with the upper DWP, which is always to be a natural surface trail, which is great. I mean, Mayor Ness tried to make something good out of conflict in his own way. It was good for his project and the corridor stuff out here. He's got the upper DWP built now, but what it's done for the Cross City Trail is it's morphed it and extended the time frame and brought it above Grand Avenue. So advocates like us are doing is we're trying to bring it back. This image just shows to you how serious it was back then, that the lower route wasn't even in the plan, but in every other plans before that it was. So as advocates, we pushed hard, and it actually got into the plan because the people spoke out. You might remember these images, fill the gap back during the mini master planning process. Just real quickly, these are the different routes to get through the gap, you know, and all that. But they removed the lower route from it because this up here is where the mayor wanted to terminate now, not Munger Trailhead. So I'll speed through it. So then there was another mini master plan after this first one, and there was a survey in between. And the survey came back pretty loud and clear that the lower route was important to people. And you'll see it now, it's in the map. They still have this one up above, the going up to Beck's Road. So what this did is it morphed the Cross City Trail from this area to there, all the way out to Beck's Road. And that's been the heartache ever since. Anything above Grand Avenue hasn't been the Cross City Trail for everybody who's worked on the Cross City Trail forever. So this is what the mini master plan looks like now. Segment 3, segment 4, segment 4A, 5, and 5A are all above Grand Avenue. All of them are yet to be built except for this blue one. And the lower one is yet to be built, this little segment here. And that's a close-up shot of the upper route versus the lower route. And I'm gonna just quickly go through, there's some new graphics we've gotten. If you can see this, I'm gonna make this bigger. So this is where we're at today. We're at that last mile, we call it. It's actually a mile and a half. And that's that orange line here. That's the long sought after lower route, segment 6. The upper route, the red line, is what the city's trying to build. And right now, segment 3 is what they have funding for. And we know that they can move that funding over to the lower route by just prioritizing it and seeking it. The other routes here haven't been looked at, but they're also possible routes looked at by a couple people just came on board and said, well, we can do these too. So this map really just shows you that there's other ways to skin this cat. There's other ways to get this done. This one on the right is associated with this map. You can see the reason why people don't want to go up over Grand Avenue. This is a steep climb and the length of it. So you're going up 107 feet in elevation, and on the other ones at top, you're doing 47, I think it is. Down here, it shows you the length difference. You know, I have friends that bought places in Bay Hill and Spirit Cove, and they've mentioned to me, why do I got to go up the zoo and over and around down just go to Super One on my bike? I thought that was kind of a, you know, you won't do it. So we're pushing right now, and I try to be quick because this is the advocacy side of things, this is really the last segment that's always been envisioned. This purple line going like this. The big impediment is BNSF doesn't want to sell the city this railroad right now. The city is negotiating for many BNSF things. So we've been saying we don't need BNSF right now. We need you to build from the Munger Trail to Raleigh Street. We feel it's very doable because there's right of way that the city owns. And this piece right here is on top of the WLSSD's 48-inch pressurized main. It's not going anywhere time soon, and nobody's going to build on top of it. And timing is such that you could build either or of those within this time frame. We believe if the city puts a little priority on it, and they've been focused on BNSF. Some in the city have been shocked to hear that BNSF isn't actually needed. So we're advocating build a Raleigh Street, sit there and wait for BNSF. And in the meantime, build the upper route after the lower route's built. And this is this is Raleigh Street, and Raleigh Street's due to be repaired sometime in the future. So when they do repair Raleigh, you can then make a bike connection or a multi-use trail connection at that time, or wait for BNSF and get that eventually. That's the, and this is the BNSF section. But what we're doing right now as advocates is we're just trying to convince the city and the mayor to take a look at some of these things. So we've just launched, I mean, within a day, we haven't really made it public. You might be the first group to see it. Is a Connect the Dots campaign of a petition. You can go online and sign this petition and make a comment to it. It's really about, if you agree, focus on the lower route, not the upper route. So that's our presentation real quick. This is who the friends are. We're actually leading this coalition of people on the Cross City Trail. So we got a coalition that's short-lived, focusing on the Cross City Trail, not just the friends, just a wider group of people. You can reach us by friending us on Facebook. You just search for Friends of Western Duluth Parks and Trails or FWDPT. You can email us, or we have a website called crosscitytrailduluth.com. We've been maintaining that site since the 2017 came out. So we do some updating on that as well. I do want to, if you have any questions, I mean, we definitely entertain it. And lastly, I just really want to appreciate you guys. I've heard that the Women's Club was kind of involved in the freeway project too. You kind of spoke out on that, and so I've been learning a little bit along the road too about you guys. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
No, but I have a comment about, Joy has talked about getting a biking group together, and I've done a lot of biking myself on this trail, going from one end to the other, down to the cities as far as you can go and up the shore. And so this is really interesting to me. But getting a bike group together with the Women's Club, wouldn't that be fun? We could do some of these segments, just like Lucy's with the walking group. We could have, June is coming, May.
Yes.
We won't be cooped up forever. And I think it'd be a wonderful opportunity. They used to have great ice cream cones up in Carlton, and that was kind of a carrot, so. So anyway, I think this is wonderful. It's good to see these trails. I know that it would be nice to get a trail going up the shore. We've done bits and pieces of it up the shore, but it gets kind of hazardous between here and Two Harbors sometimes because the trail isn't complete. So it'd be nice to see it all done. So thank you very much. This was very interesting.
Yes.
I'll interject. The new segment 2 that goes from Carlton Avenue to Irving Park is built. It's plowed, and just like the Lake Walk, the Cross City Trail will be plowed. So it's walkable and bikeable right now. One caveat though, the Erie Pier is, the Erie Pier ponds, they call it, down below the Bong Bridge. That's an AOC project that's coming online this year. And it's gonna shut down the second segment for a year. We don't know exactly when, sometime this spring probably. There is a bus bike walk week or month coming up in May that the Zeitgeist does, and we may be organizing a little ride of that segment 2 if it's still open at that time. So we can send you a notice on that if you'd like.
Yes. Send it to me. This is Rolene. Send it to me and I can forward that onto the group. Thank you.
Great.
Addie and Rolene, it's Allison. Hi, Skip and I walked from the Heritage Center, parked in their parking lot, and we hiked out to the Erie Piers. So it was, anyway, it was great. Good day for us.
Oh,
Skip and I
wonderful.
together had a good time.
All right.
Great to hear.
Lots of opportunity, and it's so healthy to be outside.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. So, there
Yes.
you all are. Okay.
Wonderful. And Mike, I imagine donations are accepted. Where would they be sent?
Actually, we're not a nonprofit. We're registered with the state. We haven't moved into the nonprofit world
Okay.
yet. We do have a little, very, very small slush fund for just printing things and things like that. So we're not seeking out funds right now, but we have talked about fundraising for this segment.
Mhm.
But really, we're advocates, so we're just encouraging the city to one, you heard they didn't work well with Irving.
Mhm.
We've been trying to work with the city to sit down with us and have a conversation and work with the community while you're developing these plans. So, if you agree, I think the funds would be more addressed signing the petition or writing to your counselor. You can go to our website, our Facebook page. We've got all the information there. If you feel like writing, please do, because it really does make a difference in this local government, that your counselor does hear you and your mayor is hearing people. So
Great.
I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was very interesting to learn all the history, and thank you, Dick and Allison and Mike. We really appreciate it.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Yes.
I've enjoyed it for one, so.
Thank you to Dick and Mike. It's been a lot of work to present this, and gets
Mhm.
modified each time they present it, improved. So tremendous effort, volunteer effort, but passionate and very, very capable. I've been so
Mhm.
impressed by the people with whom I've worked out in the western part. Very, very fine people. And the Lake Walk, I was more on my own, but with this Western Trail and the Cross City Trail Group there, it's a broad and deep and wonderful, competent, passionate people with a balanced sense of what's the public interest. It's not biased in any one particular way. It's for the public interest, what's best for all of us. And I appreciate the people with whom I've worked. And thanks to Mike and Dick for their work for this presentation today.
Yes, thank you. Much appreciated.
I want to say one thing after Allison. I got involved in this stuff back in 2014. I don't know why. I just did. And I didn't know what it was going to involve, but it is advocacy. And the one reason I stick with it, it's extremely frustrating work, as most of you probably know, but the thing that keeps me in it is you meet wonderful people like Allison and Dick and the many others that really care and actually work their tails off to do some positive things. And the like-minded people that really care, that and passionate, and it's just adds joy to your life, actually, meeting great people. So that's
Those
why.
relationships are important, especially when you share a passion about something, and you can build bonds and reach out to the community. It's wonderful.
Mhm.
Yeah, great.
Thanks again.
I would say that
Okay.
the core of my passion has been to improve the relationship between the citizens and our governance. The process has been most challenging. It was with the Lake Walk, and it certainly has been with the Western Trails work. I really, truly encourage each of us to communicate to the mayor and to your counselors. That's our way of influencing things, and it matters. It's what we can do. So I encourage you, please, 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 to do that.
Okay, will do.
Good.
Okay, bye. Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.